So starting to record. Yeah. So this is the meal planner code walkthrough. So I hope. Okay. So we all essentially know that we start our application with Docker. So we would basically use like we use Docker Compose up and it starts our application. So I just want to not just mail planner UI. Yeah, this one, Dockerfile. Yeah. So, and basically, what Docker does is that it starts the PostgreFile server. So, PostgreFile server is the GraphQL server for us. And one second. And it basically install Postgres and so on and so forth. And then you run all the packages related to it with npm install, and then you start the PostgreFile server. Now, what this PostgreFile server does is PostgreFile. What it does is basically it connects to our Postgres DB database, and it basically also runs our DB reset psql, which basically resets our database, and then it runs all our migrations that needs to be run, and it connects to our Postgres database, and it runs the no Express server. So now it starts the node server. So now I will go to the Express server here. So here, what we are doing is we are creating an Express app here, and we are defining the we use the JWT secret, so which is stored in our env our environment variable. So, and it is a we use a HTTP only cookie here, so that it cannot be tampered with. And if you notice here, we are using PostgreFile, and we are defining our database URL, and if it is already defined, or we just use the local host here, and in case of production it will just take it from here and so on. And so basically it will start, if you have noticed, our PostgreFile server runs in localhost 4000 slash graphiql, right? So you would be able to access there. And so if you notice here, there is this PostgreFile options. So that's what we're going to see here. So the PostgreFile options, we have custom plugins here. Now, this operation messages plugin, it basically allows you to do custom code like before and after you send any request in PostgreFile. And this login plugin is basically to authenticate, like using our GWT token, and I'm sorry, using our password and credentials. And so I'll just go into this login here. Okay. So if you notice, there is before is empty, this after here, which kind of authenticates and passes on invalid credentials in case it's not valid. And at that point, it sets the authentication cookie here with the person ID and the role. So we have different roles. We have app underscore anonymous, we have app underscore admin, and then meal designer, and then user, app underscore user. So those roles are being set, and you also can clear, the authentication cookie. And so that's what this does. And is there something to say here? Yeah, I think that's pretty much is good here. So we'll go back to the server. Then there is this I mean, this is just a simplified PG simplify inflector. It's basically to simplify the way that we write codes, GraphQL queries. Like to get a meal for a particular meal ID, we just say get meal of ID instead of say get meal by ID. So those kind of changes. And in order to say, we have to specify a where condition, say a meal is related to measures, right? We need to specify the ingredients or a nutrition for a particular meal. Then we kind of use this kind of filter condition there. And yeah, so this basically talks about the authentication cookie, where I showed you there that set authentication cookie, basically that context dot set auth cookie that I showed you here in this login plugin. This basically calls the set authentication cookie here, and it passes on the person ID and the role, and it sets for that session. And this basically clears off the authentication cookie. So, and we need to specify the GWT claims here. And so we need to also define the role here specifically, because without which GWT token had an issue. Gravatar plugin is basically to use the Gravatar that we use in our um, user in the in our application. And yeah, so this is the so schema.graphql is getting exported and used by our front end, right? Um, and I think so. Basically, why we have this app underscore anonymous role is because mail, like the recipes list, can be viewed without any authentication. So that was a requirement. So that's why we have an app underscore anonymous too. So I think pretty much from the JavaScript point of view, this is all that is required. And the next is the SQL files that were. So basically, all the ones that are there in the schema are read from the SQL file. So I don't know whether you guys have seen this PostgreSQL file. 1 minute. Oops. Did I close it off? No, right. You're there. Okay, it's still recording. Great. Okay, I'll just have to share you a different screen. 1 minute. So, are you all familiar with this Postgre file, or should I go with it? Should I explain this or not? I
Yeah,
should.
you can explain.
Good. So this is the localhost 4000 GraphQL that I was talking about. So I mentioned about the schema.graphql. So if you notice here, there is authenticate, authorize admin, authorize meal designer, create meal plan, create meal plan entry, and so on and so forth. These are all queries and mutations, right? So, 1 minute. Okay. Yeah. So these are all queries and mutations that you see here. So I just wrote an example query. So just the high time I had. So if you see, this is how the schema is. That you can see the type definition also here. Say for example, every query has an ID and a node. And say for example, meals. If you go into meals, you can see that it has a filter, and you can order by meals, order by ID. And this is basically to use to order based on a meal. And so let's go to the meals here. So this is how you define a meal. Sorry, this is how you query a meal, the list of meals. So you just write the keyword query, and then this can be anything. Okay, this can be like even meals 10, like meals all, all meals, all meals here. Okay, and so if I say like query all meals, then I can run this as query all meals. And it would list down all the meals for you here. Okay. Now, if I want only the first 5 meals in the list, then I just have to specify first colon 5. So this kind of a filter, and it would query you just that for you, like with just gives you the name of it. Say, for example, I want to filter based on a particular name Ian. Name Ian is basically name English. So the reason I created two names is because I thought French would be there, and so name FR and name Ian. So just for the perspective. And so if you're filtering, say, this is how you filter it. So I'm not sure how you're able to view it. So yeah. So meals with coriander. So the meals is being filtered with that name equal to and the variable, whatever is the value. And if you give this, then it would, and then you can specify what nodes you want to see. So say for example, I can even give the description here. I can go tags relevant to it. So sorry, it's taking a while. Yeah. Um, um, say you want a video URL, for example, or mm, what else? Categories. Just an example. Okay. So, and then you just run with this. Then you get the whole stuff here. 1 minute. I'm just expanding for a better view. I think because I've shared the screen, it's not allowing. Yeah, now you can view it. So if you see the nodes, it has the name, description, tags, video URL, and all the categories. All the values are displayed. So this is how you check a query in the first place, whether the query works, whatever you want to stuff inside the front end. Okay. So now I will briefly go back to the SQL and then go to the front end part of it. I'll switch the
Okay,
view.
Shanti, I have a question now before you leave the screen. So,
Yeah.
firstly, so when we are writing this PostgreSQL, like this kind of queries, right? So, I have to download this particular thing, and whatever queries I want to run, I have to check it here before pushing the code for the front end. You are saying in the code base, right?
Yes. You need to see whether this query is
Works.
giving the desired
Hmm,
data value. So this is basically to test whether your
hmm,
query works
hmm,
or
hmm.
a mutation, for example. Yeah.
Got it.
So say for example, create meal is a mutation, and if
Hmm,
you need to give this particular input and
hmm, hmm.
and so
And
on to for it to work in terms of it'll show you that it has been created and kind of.
hmm.
So you
So,
just look at the code, figure out what are the query mutation, try it out here. And say, for example, just this I type mutation create meal here. I suppose that's why it's coming. Anyway, uh, yeah. So, what's your question? What any other question, Priya?
so when I install, right? So when I install this Postgres, this one, PostgreSQL, so it will automatically come like so in your local, everything is set up. So what I should input to get all this set up in my local as well?
You just run Docker Compose. Just follow
Okay.
me MD. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
just wipe off all the Docker Compose down, and uh,
Mm-hmm.
prune, volume prune, all the steps, and then afterwards Docker Compose up, and then
Mm-hmm.
run the database seed files to make sure all the meals are there in the database, and then yeah. So basically, follow the README MD, and
Mm-hmm.
those you will be able to start the first Docker Compose up. Basically, starts the backend server, right? So
Okay.
by
Okay.
default, it would always be in this local host 4000 GraphQL.
Okay. Okay.
So
Okay.
you just start the server and it should come for you.
Okay. Okay. And for that, this should be locally installed. Then only it is possible because we generally do Docker Compose, but as I don't have it installed, it is not coming up. That's it, right?
Yeah, so you have to install Docker. So in the first place,
Hmm.
anything to work. So yeah,
Yeah. Post GraphQL also I have to install, right?
no, you
Separate.
don't have to install anything for poster file.
Oh,
Our
is it?
packages will install all those things. So that's what I explained here
Okay.
in the
No,
big.
so how this window has opened for you, this post GraphQL, this one.
This is it's running in this backend server, right? Localhost 4000 GraphQL. That's all. It's just
Okay,
running.
it is a web. Okay, in the web page only you are doing it. In the Chrome you have. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. You're just
Okay.
in the Chrome for this link, just like
Okay.
into the meal plan app. This,
Okay.
so, yeah, is it clear now, Ria?
Yeah, clear. Yeah.
So, proceed with our. I am having a little
Sorry,
bit of
please, I
struggle
have a
with
question
the
too.
screens. That's all. Yeah. Yes, Tilia?
Okay, okay. My question is still buttressed, goes to what Ria just asked. Please, you said the post graph QL is embedded on what is it called? What we are working on. Like if
It's
we
our backend server, so it keeps without that your front end won't be able to fetch anything. So this
okay, if you
basically
want,
screen, see, PostgreSQL file is the GraphQL server that we're using as a backend server,
okay,
which is used by our front end in order to talk to our database, which is PostgreSQL. So now, in order to view the schema and the query and the mutation, we are using GraphQL, PostgreSQL. So that has an interface like this beautiful interface of localhost 4000 GraphQL. That's all.
all right. So if you want to launch the post graph IQL, what are we going to do?
No, this is only to see your query is testing or not. That's all. Like you are going to write a query and you want to make sure your query is working. This is a faster way to check whether your query is working.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
all. Mm. So the queries are all written in the front end, which I'm going to explain further on. So in order to make sure that your GraphQL query is written properly, correctly, because there's no way VS Code will tell you if there is an issue, right? If there is something wrong, say for example, you type the, sorry, I'm just having a little bit struggle with the mouse here. Yeah, okay. So say for example, by mistake, you made a mistake like this, okay? If you do this and run this, this will throw you an error saying that that is it cannot query the field because there is no such field as description E. So this you need to know, right? When you're writing the query, what is the mistake that you're doing and why is the query not working? So in order to debug that, you use this tool to run your query and see whether your thing is working. So if you just the way I'm bringing off this these fields is basically I'm pressing control and space and it basically shows what are relevant to under this meals. So this is being read from the schema. So how is the schema created? It is created from the database. So based on the database, tables and types, schemas generated by PostgreSQL for us. And that is what you're seeing in PostgreSQL here in terms of each and every, um, in the Explorer section, you see all the, basically all the mutation. And here you see all the types for a particular uh, query. And here, this is the section where you write the query and you run the query and you see the results here. So far with me? Yes?
Yeah, yeah, Shanti.
Okay. Mayumi, is it clear?
Mayumi is saying yes in mute.
Okay, okay, that's fine. Cool. So let's just um, so that's all. So basically it'll show you that the structure clearly, and this is the output that would get passed on to our front end, and that's what is getting React picks up and basically shows it for you in the component UI. So that I would come to the React part of it. Before I need, which screen are you seeing now? Oh, you're still seeing this, so I need to go to the code again. the semi-code again. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, we can see.
Yes. So now you see the SQL files here listed out. So these are common utilities basically. Every record that you create, you need to make sure that you say set and updated at this record was updated at this date. This record was created at a particular date and timestamp. So this is done for all tables. So this column is required across for all tables. So this is a common util. And so we first create this. So first we create a schema if it does not exist, which is the app schema. And then this app underscore private is for storing our passwords. And, I mean, for anything related to our credentials, we are using the schema app underscore private. And these are basically the helper functions, which is for setting our created at timestamp and our updated at timestamp. And auth session is basically in order to, so this basically, if you see the four types that I explained before, so the role type, and so app user, mail designer, and app admin. One which is not mentioned here is app underscore anonymous, which you will see in the code later on. And this basically creates a table. So I may not go through everything, but I think at least one example I thought I will go through. So this basically creates a table, and always we say if not exists, and for a person with a full name and an ID that's being generated serially. And if you notice here, this created and updated at is here. This is the one that I mentioned in common utils. And so basically this is to create a this is, I mean, you can learn about trigger functions in postgres. So it basically triggers whenever a record is created, it sets up it's when it is updated at, so it's before update it would set the updated at, before creating a record which is insert, it'll set is created at. And then if you notice here, this app underscore private namespace is being used, which has the account. So if I'm not audible, just let me know if the background noise is too much. Girls, girls, I'm still in the presentation. Please go inside. Go. Okay, go. I'll finish it by 8, okay? Yeah. Girls, please go outside. So where was I? Yeah. So person ID, role, and so yeah. So by default we create always the app role as app user, because we don't want to accidentally give the admin permissions. So when we create a user, and email, password is always a hash, and so it has been, we have a salt and to encrypt it and so on. So you will see here, we use a crypt, we are encrypting with a generic salt. So I think BF stands for some fish, I forgot. Anyway, so so this is the standard way that you would create. You would not you would not store the password as is, for security reasons. So you always encrypt it and store it, and so that's what this does. So if you notice, this is being used in app underscore private account, and you're able to insert into it only as if you're able to insert into this particular person, app underscore person, and so on. So first, yeah, so I think yeah, so, and this is basically to make a particular user into an admin. So it basically checks whether um, uh, the account does not have any user, then the very first user who's created becomes the admin automatically. So that's what this says. If the account count is zero, then the first new role is always the admin. And further on, all users will be created as app underscore user. And so that's what this make first user admin does. And then you register the person here with the insert. I think I just went through it. Yeah, so just creating with the full name and then creating an account with the password. Yes, so and then you also have a, basically this is for authenticating. So you authenticate a particular user, you basically extract it, and you figure it out whether so you we have an expiry day, expiry for the token of 7 days, so after which you have to re-log in, right? So that's the security measure that we are taking, so that a person who's logged into the computer does not have access forever, but they have an expiry date. So that's what this is for. uh, and on success, JWT is created with claims for person and role. Okay, so that's what is happening here. Mm, and yeah, so pretty much every other table is basically for creating. It basically gives you what are the fields in the table, and then it just creates it. And, yeah, and it basically for example, the permissions we have set up row level security also here. And we give permissions. Are you able to hear me? Yes.
Yes, Shanti.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, it's fine. Don't worry.
Okay.
Let the girls have fun.
So app.nutrition. So basically, it's you can select from a table for app user, meal designer, and so why this app nutrition has to have that app underscore anonymous. For example, you're showing the nutrition value for a meal recipe, then you should be able to select it, right? So that's why this role. So basically, we are restricting what can be done in a table, like insert, use, update, delete can only be done by a meal designer or an admin. A normal user cannot do it, right? So something like that. So like that, we have set hub triggers, row level security, and so on and so forth. If you read through the SQL
So
files,
by normal user, you mean the staff of Greener Village, or
uh,
so any people can log in?
the clients,
The
the
client.
staff of Greener Village will be mainly either a admin or a meal designer. The end client who's going to actually use the meal plan, they are the end users. So Greener
So
Village has
the
a list of
clients can be able to get access to the login details, and they can actually log in and see the recipes, right?
yes, that's the precise reason of this application.
Yeah.
So
So
that they
I
don't
was
have to
confused. I was under this impression, but I got different feedback. So I don't know. I just want to confirm.
that's perfectly fine. It's best to ask and clarify the requirements. So that's the whole basis of this application. So I would explain it like earlier on, like Greener Village used to have customers, I mean, sorry, clients who required meal plans. So what they used to do is they used to take a printout of the recipes and just write down these are the meals you need to do it on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Just give a kind of a, a, a week's plan, for, and what are the recipes. So it was all physical in form, and and they were not, it required a repetitive effort across different clients, right? So, in order to help digitize this effort in terms of, you don't have to hand out reports, you don't have to hand out a shopping list or anything. Everything is system generated, so that they Greener Village doesn't put in the effort to for each and every new recipe that they write and so on. Like for example, you need to figure out what is the grocery list. It'll be too much of a pain for them to collect the ingredients, list it down, and so on and so forth, right? And also just provide, like, you can share the same meal plan across two different clients who are vegetarian, for example, right? So those things are all difficult when it is all in physical papers. So that's the whole concept of this application. And so yes, the end users will have access to this, and they would be able to see their own meal plan, they will be able to create their own meal plan, they will be able to view the meal recipes, but they will not be able to see other people's meal plans. They will not be able to create their own meal recipes. They will not have access to the admin UI of Meal Planner. Does that answer your question, Pujita?
Yeah, it does, Shanti.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. And so, yeah. So you can go through each and every SQL files here. So I'm just being a little wary of the time. Uh, so, uh, pr- uh, so so yeah, basically everything will have like this what is a nutrition product and a meal. So product is basically the list of products that we have, which would be like, it would be the quantity that you would buy from a store. Measure is basically for a particular meal what are the ingredients list, and it would take it from the product table, so that's why we have a reference to the product ID. And it would be always connected to a meal, so that's why we have a reference to the meal ID here. And meal plan is basically a collection of all meals. So, and it is always to a defined to a I mean, it may be defined to a person. And so the only not null feature you see here is name. So all, that's why you can create a meal plan without assigning a user, or without giving a description or anything. So this is the not null, basically signifies this is the only required field. So, and then meal plan entry is like which meal plan comes to which category. And which is the meals that are relevant to this meal plan. Yeah. And so each meal plan entry, say for example, in Sunday breakfast, I'm having idli, for example, right? So, and a idli and chutney. And Monday, I am having, say, dosa and sambar. Okay, these are all Indian dishes. So that idli and coconut chutney will be two different meal plan entries for the category of breakfast for that particular day, which is Sunday. Similarly, there will be two entries, dosa and sambar, two different. So each one will have a meal plan entry record. Dosa will have, say for example, idli has meal plan entry 1, chutney has 2, dosa will have 3, and sambar will have 4. And each record will connect to that particular category and day that it belongs to.
And Shanti, one question I have here. So
Mm.
this creating the trigger and index. So can you like little bit explain us about that based on what we are creating the triggers and the indexes and then granting different accesses also, right? Yeah.
Okay, so I don't think I will have the time to go to the front end then, but yeah, I will go. I
Okay.
will quickly explain this. So basically, a trigger is whenever you want an action to be performed when you're inserting a record or updating a record or deleting a record, right? So in this case, the trigger is basically to set updated time, updated at field. So this time, if you see, it's just default now. So what is the file or created at? So for example, I'm creating an entry for idli today, right now at 7:57 p.m. Now it has to record 7:57 p.m., right? So for
Okay.
that, when I'm inserting the record, it would call this trigger and insert the time as today's date. I don't remember what's today's date. 19th July,
Hmm.
7 p.m. Right? So it just, and I think it runs, it stores in UTC and not in what I just told you. Just clarification.
Okay,
And
so for every table, the column we want to update automatically, like the current, the exact time, what time it got created, maybe updated, maybe for
yeah,
those things we are writing trigger, correct?
correct. That is correct.
Okay,
So
okay,
this basically,
now it's clear.
before update, this trigger runs, and
Hmm.
before insert, this trigger runs. So before
Okay,
inserting a record, you run created at, and before update, you run update, set update.
okay, okay, got it. And what's about the index and grant?
So index is basically for search. So it creates an index, I mean, for it to take the record. And say, for example, this meal plan entry for this meal plan ID, it basically creates a meal plan index. And so different indexes are created so that when we have thousands of records, it's easier to for it to, based on this, uh, like for a meal plan entry, this meal plan ID is already indexed as an index, so it would just go search based on that index and retrieve it, so the performance will be higher. So that's the purpose of an index.
So index field we have to declare for the fields which via which we want to do the searches in the database.
Yes. Say, for
Okay.
example, in this meal plan entry, we will always search it based on a meal plan ID, right? Or a meal ID, or
Mm-hmm.
a category, or
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Oh, okay, okay. Now it makes sense, right? So, okay, index we will create only for those columns via which we are going to do a search. So,
yes,
consider a description of a meal. I don't want to search via description. So, in
yeah,
that case, I don't need to put it as an index. I
yes,
have to put the relevant fields only for those indexes.
yeah. I am seeing what is the index that's created. What is it that you asked for? Meal plan or
I'm just giving an example. Consider
okay?
like for a meal, I don't want to search in the database with
Mm,
a description. In that case, I need not to go with that, right? A longer description is not required. I want to get maybe the meal name or meal ID, something like that. I want to search. So for those fields, I have to create the index basically.
yes.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
where it is connected, see, meal plan entry is connected to meal plan. See, if you notice, there is meal plan, there is no indexes here because
Mhm.
meal plan is always by ID, by the primary key. You will always search, right?
Okay.
But here in meal plan entry, if you notice, all of them are references. Meal plan ID is a reference. It's a basically
Oh,
reference means
oh.
foreign keys, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
ID is a foreign key.
mm-hmm.
Key is again, I don't think I mean, category is basically an enum, but still, I think it's an enum. Yeah, it's an enum, I suppose. I remember creating it as an enum. I need to refer it. Anyway, so I think that answers your question, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So let's go to the next. Uh, it's already time.
Uh,
Uh,
so Shanti, maybe we can do just the SQL part. It is going good. We are able to understand. We can do whenever you are free. We can do session for front end. We can session for. So it's like it's let's go slow so that we will be able to have a proper understanding.
yeah,
Another thing,
sure.
yeah, another thing here you have said grant also, right? So grant in the grant here I am confused for this part also. So see, in the grant, we are doing select, insert, delete, update on meal plan. Again, grant on. So how do I do this grant operation as well?
So grant is basically for a role that you specify what permission you are giving, what operation that a particular role can do
Mm-hmm.
for a given table. Say, for example, meal plan entry, any user, any meal designer, any admin can
Mm-hmm.
select, insert, delete, and update.
Mm-hmm.
But an app underscore anonymous cannot do any of these operations, like insert, delete, and update.
Right,
Okay.
right. So that's why you have given the select access only for app anonymous.
Yes. And then, so again, the sequence grant usage on sequences to app user and meal designer admin alone. That's basically to increase the while inserting.
Okay, got it. Hmm. Okay. And okay, create table, alter table, I know, and create policy thing.
So create policy is basically it say for example here so a meal plan entry user in meal plan entry for all users you can select for your particular meal plan, not for someone else's meal plan.
User specific.
So user specific. So that's what this does. It says where person ID is equal to the current setting of that person ID,
Mm,
which is the which you check with the JWT claims token
mhm,
person ID. Is if this current user is this current user who's accessing um, this query,
mhm, mm,
then yes, you'll display it. If not, you can't display it. So if anyone is trying to hack the system,
mm,
Postgres will stop it.
mhm.
So this is a security feature in terms of
Okay.
being a policy.
Okay. Okay. And other policies you are giving true meaning it's for access for all irrespective of whoever is the user. Is it so? The not this one, the before one. So using true. So app admin for app admin it's
App
going
admin should be able to access all
everything.
meal
Everything.
plan entries. Meal designer should be able to access all meal plan entries.
Okay.
So that's why
Okay.
it's just for all to meal plan design. But for
Okay.
him or
Only
her,
for
or
the
they,
special
or
case.
the app user, only the current user. So that's why
Mhm.
they're using condition here.
Got it. Got it. Thanks, Shanti.
You're welcome. So we will go to the next. So this is also pretty much the simple pantry.
Can I ask you another interrupting? Sorry. So
Yeah.
for now, for the favorite table, okay. So for the favorite table also, all the users should not have every access. Correct. So when I am logging in as a user, I should have this like I should give the policy this thing, or I should grant the access also for app. You like all the user will have access, but specifically when I am creating a policy, it's user specific also should be there, and at the same time when a meal designer or
Exactly, this policy should be there. All three policies should be there
should
for your
be
field.
there, right?
So
Right.
it's a similar policy list that you should implement in favorites also.
Right. Right. Right.
Okay. Okay. Pantry is not something that we're using. So this was a table that we created for grocery list. Yeah. And authorize. So probably when I think this may be used in our shopping list at a later point of time. Yeah, I think it is used. I'm not too sure. It's 3 years since I wrote this. But yeah, this is related to shopping list. Okay, just and then you authorize the meal designer for this. So basically, to authorize the meal designer for this, and yeah, it's just a function
And
of shopping.
all these
This is
SQL
the
files, Shanti, all these SQL files are there. Each are one table, right?
yes, yes.
Each are one table. That's
So
why
these
the
are
file
for
has been created.
migrations, right? So you also run these migrations after this. So you also see here.
Hmm.
That's a point I forgot to mention. So these are the first sequels. So you one important thing, it runs in the order of what the file name is. That's why it is 0000001 and so on and so forth. So when you create a file, you just don't create it like favorites.sql. It should be 01. Sorry, it should be in fact in the migrations because this was initially created
Hmm.
and and it's already given to them.
Hmm.
So it should come under migrations here. So for
But
example,
how do we do the numbering? So 006 I can put after that the tailing number. How do I like?
this one is basically the ticket number.
Okay. Hmm.
Ticket.
Okay. Hmm. Okay. Got it.
Good. Okay.
So in the migration file also it will be the same thing what I have written in the SQL file, right?
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes, it's just the
Same
same
thing.
file.
Same thing with begin end. That's it, right?
Yeah. I'm sorry, same?
Same, like the same content with just that begin and end, right?
Yes, yes, the same begin and end. Just ditto the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Begin and commit actually. And
Mm-hmm.
you basically create or replace whatever for whatever you need to say. For example, in duplicate meat plan, I would have written an insert to into and so on, right? So
Yeah, I think I created the file as wrong number.
I'm sorry.
Naming. I think now I got to know it should be the ticket number. I created 006, but after that it is not the ticket number. I was confused what number. Now I can change accordingly. Yeah.
Okay, good. So one more thing, someone has the feature of duplicate meal plan. I've already written the SQL for it. Okay, so all you need to do is wire it up with the front end and use the query that is already there in the previous meal planner. That we have basically deleted that folder. There will be one earlier one called meal planner hyphen UI something else. This it's a longer name. So that would have the duplicate code, sorry, duplicate meal plan GraphQL query that I have written for the older UI. So basically, for you all, because you're all new, you didn't. Um, okay, Miami. Earlier we used to have a different front end, which was not very well designed. I had written some like the shopping list and duplicate meal plan and all this and that. And then we kind of redid this. So new duplicate meal plan alone, that feature in the front end didn't migrate. I did not migrate it. I didn't have the time. So whoever is taking the feature, just know that this file exists here because it is not under the usual list
Yeah.
of sequels that you see. So take
Yeah.
it from
I am working on that, Shanti. I'll make a note of that.
there. Okay, cool. I think we should wrap it up now. It's if that's okay with you guys, and we would take it as a different session
Yeah, Shanti.
sometime.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this session was good understanding. We can go like this slow only. Like I understood at least the reason I was asking for this for my understanding it was good. So lot of confusion while I was creating the file I was getting. So now it's clear. So whenever you have time again, we can again get back and sit with you.
So I am not available next week
Mhm.
because Pagni is traveling, and so probably next week we can connect.
Sure,
We can have another session if everyone is okay with it.
sure, sure.
And meanwhile, if you have any questions, any doubts, clarifications, feel free to ask in the channel so that
Mhm.
I can clarify for you. The pull requests, it's also I would be shortly merging them. So I think Bo has the only one who has the pull request, right?
I also have one, Shanti.
Okay, great. So I would look at both your pull requests and then we can do it. So
Also, I don't have anything like a feature bug that I'm working on
oh,
after
yeah.
we
Okay,
finish that.
sure. So probably we'll stop the recording and just we'll look at the GitHub issues and go from there. Yeah.
Okay.
Also, Shanti, while I was trying to practice the data entry, I got some doubts. I just noted it down.
Okay.
If we could find some other time that maybe we can all sit and clarify so that we all can be on the same stage when we do the data entry, that would be helpful.